I know. I don't know what this whole thing is. It's kind of crazy. All right, here we go. There we go.
There you go.
I'm
So
back.
if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to do that one more time because
uh, yeah. So I am.
no, let me welcome Akari. Please introduce yourself.
Here I am. Yes, I am a life coach, transformation coach, trying to work with people on their nervous system because I do believe that the nervous system is the root cause of a lot of our dysregulation, right? And the way we show up in the world. And if we do not have a good regulated nervous system, then we just can't do a lot of the work that we set our intentions on doing. And so we hear a lot about, all you need to do is learn how to pause, how to take a breath, but no one really teaches you how that's done. And so that's my job. I really love to work with people and teach them about how powerful your breath is and teaching simple techniques that really allow you to build that heart brain coherence so that you can make decisions that are based out of a different lens and not like the trauma lens or the shame lens or any other lens that kind of gets in our way.
Yes, which this show is all about perception. Ultimately, I was kind of figuring that out when I was like discussing how it's a hybrid of C and ADHD and spiritualist.tv, and I was like, well, both of them are about perception,
Mm-hmm.
um, and how we see things. And your nervous system informs how you see things because it's your brain. It's a lot more than just your brain, but the nervous system includes your brain.
It does. It does. And the interesting fact about it, and I love this about learning and talking about the nervous system is because it combines a little bit of the woo-woo world with the scientific world. And it's interesting because the science is finally catching up to what we've known for thousands of years.
Yes, I know, which is ironic, but so true. And it's, was it you? Someone was saying recently, like, people think that, well, I know how to breathe, like, I don't need help with that. And they're not realizing, no, you're not, you might be breathing to stay alive, but you may not be, how would you explain breath work? Like, is it maximizing the breathing experience, or how would I look at that better?
I I think it's tapping into what like our breath can offer us. We're not tapping into the power of our breath, and none of us are taught because of just the way our social, you know, lifestyle kind of is at this point.
Yeah.
And everyone makes fun of it. Well, everybody breathes. Well, I hope so. But are you breathing with intention? And are we giving ourselves that time? I mean, I know we're all busy, but there are times when I just all of a sudden realize that I'm doing these deep belly breaths, and I'm just so excited to know that I'm actually breathing out of my diaphragm and not out of my chest, right?
Yeah,
And when
right.
you start to become more intentional, you do recognize some of those patterns where it's like, okay, my heart's starting to beat a little quicker. Oh, I'm holding my breath, right? So we're doing
Yes.
things unconsciously. And so once you start tapping into what is happening with the breath, then you start to realize that, oh man, like I can totally see how my breath kind of works together with either stress or being in a state of anxiety or even being in a state of calm.
Yes. And it's funny because I'm thinking of how, and I don't need to go down this tangent, but um, when I was I'm trying to give credit where credit's due, but I really don't remember where I saw this, but they were explaining how the creation mechanics and how the God breath is one of
Mm,
open and closed, and like our reality is actually um, little fragments, I want to say, of like, I mean, that's my word. Like, it's almost like everything we see is flashed and then closed and flashed and closed. We don't perceive that. We perceive a continuum, but everything is actually freeze frame, freeze frame, freeze frame. Like, and I was
yeah.
like thinking that's pretty wild. But what they were saying was that they were saying, and they were saying it like God breathes, meaning, reality or the energy or, the universe, like take whatever word you want to use, but like that there's this uh, up and open, and then it closes and comes back down, up, and it's exhaling and inhaling just like we do.
Hmm.
Like the planet breathes, the
Right.
universe breathes, all in a quantum way. This is what they were talking about, like in the quantum field, even little molecules are doing this expansion, contracting thing, and that is breathing life into
Our
what we
bodies.
experience as life, right? Our bodies,
Yeah.
and even plants and animal. I mean, all these things that we don't think of as like, I don't know. It's hard to see a tree breathing, but like, that's what they were saying. It's like everything
I
does
think one of
this
the
thing.
one of the things that we forget because it's not a focus of how we live our reality is that we live on a planet. We live on a
Yeah.
planet that is, and we're in these vehicles, right? These vessels, which is our human body, and we experience life based off of this body. I mean, and it has its like limitations of what it can do. And mind you, humans are amazing, right? They're amazing creatures, but yet we cannot see in the dark the way a cat or a dog can.
Right.
And so it really shows you how limited our vision really is. So why would our breath not be any different? Right? Or
Yeah.
experiencing all of the things in this body, we don't use it to its potential.
Well, that's what I'm imagining they're calling junk DNA, or like, the 90% of our brains that we don't use. I'm pretty sure we just haven't tapped in. I don't think it's junk. I don't think
No,
we
no, no.
understand it. And I think we do use it, we need it, and we just don't realize it.
I think Wim Hof just was showing that he had his brain tapped into, and they noticed that he was using parts of his brain that haven't been officially like tapped into. That he's because of all of the breathing and all of the breath work and all of the different, how he submerges himself into the cold ice, and so all of these different exercises that he's been doing, pushing that human body to the extreme, has
Hmm.
caused different parts of his brain to get activated, which I find fascinating in the
That is
sense that,
fascinating.
like, I'm not the one who wants to jump into that cold, icy
No,
river
that's
or
why I
lake or
laughed when you
whatnot.
said it. I'm like, not for me.
I guess I'm not activating that part of my brain. Um, but it's just really interesting because, again, we're not using our human body to its potential. And a lot of it has to do with, you know, thinking, feeling, doing things with the brain because the brain is here to keep us safe. And that's what
Yes.
ultimately keeps us stuck, right? Because it's like,
Well,
uncharted
yes.
territory, let's not go there.
Wait, I'm sorry. My cat is desperately trying to get up here. You don't need to be up here right now. Sorry. Say hi. Stop. Okay. Sorry about that. I
That's
love
funny.
live shows because you just never know what's going to happen. Anyway, there's hammering going on too. Do you hear that?
No.
Okay, good. What I was going to say was, because you're talking about fear, I
Hmm.
actually pulled some cards before we came on, just asking, like, what's the most important thing for people, like the legacy of the show? How do we bless them? What do they want to hear? What do they need to
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
And it was absolutely about the fear. And you're talking about the unconscious, like subconscious, fear based. The nervous system is, can you talk or speak about like how people get triggered or whatever, and how breathing affects that, or like how you can tie those things together so that people are clear on how it's not just making you feel calm, it actually does a whole lot in the background.
Well, it's complicated, right? Because what
Yeah.
happens what happens when people get triggered, and again, triggered is a huge word. And so the big thing is like, well, what triggered you? Like, all right, I'm
Yeah.
triggered. Okay, great. Well, why? Like
Right. What was the
what caused
cause?
this?
And right.
And again, we lose touch with the big words around what does it feel like? What does it look like? What's happening? And so triggered is a big word. Okay, so what triggered you? Well, I had a memory of an argument I had with my mom, and it's like, okay, well, that's really interesting. So that triggered you in this moment. Now, is it in the present or in the past? And that's when we start talking about the brain, right? The brain doesn't know the difference between the present and the past or the future. It doesn't have that kind of concept. And so when you're
That's
triggered
because
in the
there's
present,
only now.
well, yes, there's only now, but it doesn't really know what's happening. If so, you're reacting to a trigger. You're reacting to getting upset with mom in the present moment, but why, right? And so it's
Yeah.
easy to realize that the brain is connecting to something that happened in the past and it's bringing it into the now. So it's not even the problem that happened. The brain remembers something, sends sends like these signals to the body, and the body's like, oh yeah, I remember that. And so then that is what a trigger really is. It's a memory from the past where something happened and your brain is reacting to it in the present.
So you're re-experiencing on a
Yes.
physiological level.
Yes, completely. I mean, it takes over. It takes over. And that's why you get into a fight with your spouse and it has nothing to do, like you get triggered with a tone. Why? Because there
Yes.
was a tone in your past that caused some sort of expression, impression, right? Like an imprint in you. And so that imprint continues. And so one of the beautiful things about
Yeah.
learning how to be in awareness of these feelings is that you get into that space and then there's like almost like a pause that happens like during this continual space, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm just going to breathe and connect to my heart. And interestingly enough, what it has done for me is I could be in the middle of a fight with someone and then I realize, okay, this is kind of weird, and I connect to my heart, and it changes the whole energy of the whole discussion because my shoulders start to come down, and I stop getting into that big warrior I'm gonna beat you up pose, right? And I take a deep breath,
Mm-hmm.
and I can start to sink into myself, which then allows the other person to kind of mirror that as well, and then it calms the situation down.
Yes. I'm just thinking of an argument I had with my son last night, and he was all riled up, and I got all riled up. And when I went back in his room, I realized, and I said, you know what, Jenny, you could just go back in and be loving. And that completely just, the whole thing was like a brand new moment where there was no more residual. It was interesting
And I think
when
that's
you
the biggest
realize,
practice. That's the
yeah,
biggest practice. I think when you do
just
it with your children,
noticing.
when you
Yeah.
do it with your children, it's like you are creating a new foundation from which they can start growing into this regulated human being, like knowing that you can lose it, because we're all going to lose it. It's not a fix-all, right?
Yeah.
But knowing that you can lose it and you can come back and really come and what do they call it, the rupturing of it and then the repair through regulating your nervous system and then co-regulating with someone else.
Co-regulating. I love that.
Co-regulating. Yes, it's and I always teach my clients that the strongest nervous system in the room is the one that's going to win. So when you have a 3-year old, a toddler that's throwing a tantrum, their nervous system really is the strongest one because it's just regulating everyone else around.
Right.
And it's those parents that we tend to look at and go, why are they so calm? Why aren't they quieting the child down? That's a parent with a very strong nervous system that's like, hey, you know what? That's that toddler's world, right? He's in his own sinking ship. It's not my sinking ship, but I'm going to come
Yeah.
and co-regulate with that child slowly to get him to feel safe and connected. It's crazy. It's crazy
It's
when you start to break it down.
it's amazing. And one of the things that I really like, sharing, because with my clients that feel like they don't even know, like some people will say, well, what happened? What made you feel this way? And they have no idea because
Mm-hmm.
it's not actually happening now. And they're not even certain about, I mean, it really could be a memory, like you said. It could be a memory, it could be a smell, it could be a tone, it could be just anything. And instead of spending all their time looking for the cause, I'm more inclined, now, I mean, the last couple of years, I'm like, let's not try to isolate ourselves from the world that's gonna, trigger you. Like, because then you're staying home maybe when you don't need to. Maybe if you learn some like breathing techniques, some mindfulness, some, get in a room by yourself for a moment, decompress, whatever. These little things can make a huge difference when you, instead of freaking out and saying, I must find out what's causing it, and then I must avoid what's causing it.
Right.
Um, because a lot of times it isn't something that is actually happening in the moment that you could pinpoint. And people do think that. They're like, oh, I can't be in this environment because this environment, they'll say it always makes me feel a certain way. And then is that true? Does it always make you feel this way? Or just today or sometimes, or is it something else? I think, wait, what do you think about sleep with breathing? A lot of people have trouble sleeping um, because they're breathing. They use those CPAP machines. What do you think about all that?
Well, I don't know. These new CPAP machines seem to be so quiet nowadays, so I'm not sure. I haven't had anyone really tell me anything about the CPAP machine. But what I think really is that we should start learning how to train ourselves to breathe with our nose, because nose breathing is what's healthy. Mouth breathing is what causes people to snore. But, it's like a muscle. So the more you are not breathing with your nose,
Yeah.
then the more that's going to be supported. And the structures of the nose and the structure of the throat starts to shift. So when you start to learn how to nose breathe, and there's actual tapes, they're called mouth tapes, like you're literally taping your mouth shut. um and
Yeah.
and it's hilarious. I mean, I haven't tried it. I don't breathe. I don't think I breathe with my mouth, but I'm sure I do at
I'm a
certain
mouth
points.
breather.
Oh
I'm
girl.
a mouth breather. Yeah.
So mouth
I notice
taping.
when I'm breathing with my nose because I'm such a mouth breather. And when I was a kid, I was all mouth breather because I had allergies. So I couldn't breathe through my nose.
Yeah, so you need
So I got in
to
the habit of breathing through my
so
mouth.
you need to retrain yourself to start breathing with your nose, because the amount of people that have issues, heart issues, comes from that mouth breathing.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I want to really scare you. Like, it is scary when you start to do the research, when you start following the research. And what the research has actually found as well is, I have a holistic dentist and he's all into this. The reason why we have heart attacks and stuff like that, it all starts in the mouth.
Oh,
Everything
that I
starts in the mouth.
believe. I
I
know
mean,
that because I've had clients have eye issues and they eventually go back to your dental care.
yes, so it's oral care, right? And so
Oral
the
care.
same thing,
Yes.
and so the same thing happens when you are mouth breathing at night. It's You're snoring, you're irritated, you're not getting enough rest because you're, waking yourself up in the middle of the night. And it's obviously, if you have a partner who's not snoring and has to sleep next to you, I mean, and so there's a lot of little components to this breathing thing. It's not just about, and that goes right back to, well, everybody breathes. Well, yeah, everybody breathes, but not everyone is doing it correctly. And
Yeah.
thank you for sharing something so vulnerable, because I don't think any of us want to be like pointed as the mouth breather. Oh my God, I'm not breathing correctly.
I'm the mouth.
But it's good.
and
It's good
and
awareness.
and it's from doing meditation, right? That I started to really realize now I'm conscious. So I must say I'm slightly recovered. I'm not, I mean, it's been a few years now that I've been intentionally breathing in through the nose and out the mouth, more. And then I
Yeah.
catch myself sometimes, like if I'm in my car, just driving, and I'm breathing through my nose. And I'm like, that's so interesting. Look at me breathing through my nose. I didn't even,
Yeah.
it's been a slowly developing habit, but I did not know it was as scary and essential as you're saying. So
It
thank you.
it really is. If you want to dive into a spectacular audio, and I like it in Audible more than I like reading it, because you can hear him and his passion. But James Nestor has a book called Breathe, and
Mm,
he talks about his experience around mouth breathing and snoring and all of this. And he had studies done, and he went through this whole thing. And very interesting to hear the science behind all of this. And it's shocking to me that we don't have conversations about mouth breathing.
Well,
I
we're having one now. I want to
For
welcome some
sure.
people into the room here. I see we have Wendy, Bobby. I need to put on my stupid glasses. Bobby, Wendy, hi, welcome, guys. Anthony, I think I mentioned earlier. I know. I don't need them for anything else except something close to me. I can't really, I can see you, but I can't see the words. So,
Well, now we know more about you.
yes, now I'm a exposed wound, Akari.
I love it. I love it. I'm here
I will
for it.
share.
I'm here for it, sister. Bring it on.
Well, okay. So, does anybody have any questions? And if you do, all you have to do is just tap on this. So, we have some people giving us some positivity here. Thank you very much.
I love it.
um, so, I wanted to say if you could share something from your client's point of view, like what's the feedback you get as far as like doing the breathwork practices? Because I know you have a studio and you do a whole meditate. I had my group one time go and we did a whole series of breathing. There was different breathings and we went for, I don't know, 45 minutes or so. It was really kind of wild with some music. It was really wonderful. But I know you do it in person as well as
Yeah,
online.
well,
So,
there are a few things. So the whole nervous system and tracking the nervous system and working with all of that is in my program. It's a 4-month program that helps people build that resiliency. We tap into their human design chart,
yeah.
which is a fabulous chart. And the way I describe human design is like getting your own personal manual on how to live your life with integrity with how you are. Like really, what is, we're not really encouraged to be ourselves. And so this manual, it's not like you have to give it to anybody else. This is a personal manual you receive, and you're like, oh, yeah, I've been really not making decisions based off of how I should be. So some people are emotional. This is called having authority. And some people's authorities are an emotional authority. Is that yours?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's about really just taking your time making decisions. Like you don't have to make a decision right away. You're the person who I would say, you know what, just sleep on it or take a
Oh,
few days.
always I want to jump in and then later I wish I'd never agreed to do something.
And it's
And then
because you have emotional waves, right? And sometimes you're like in this really high emotional wave and you're like super excited making these amazing decisions and then you come back to neutral and you're just like, what was I thinking?
yes, and so I've learned for myself, which this maybe I don't even know if this is right, I'm just sharing that what has served me best is to just be one of those people that I just oh, you have a question for Akari. Oh, great. We have a question for Akari. Anthony,
Anthony,
I'm going to accept the request. What I was saying was, I'm just one of these people
Okay.
that I can say last minute things work for me. I don't need to plan in advance. I'm good at last minute and I can usually follow through things last minute. Easy. Sorry, Anthony, go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
yes.
That is wonderful. So, my question is for Akari. And one of my problems is I know I should be breathing better.
Hmm.
And I have had times where I practice maybe a week or two. And then one day I just forget. I
Yeah.
forget to try to breathe consciously. And then before I know it, there's months that have gone by and I haven't even worked on it. So, do you have any tips for me?
There's this magic thing that we carry around in our pockets, right? And it's called the cell phone. And
Yes.
so what I typically have my clients do when I'm working with this in this transformation strategy program is that I give them a sensor that they have to use twice a day. And so the accountability is that they have to send me a little picture of how their heart rate variability shows and where we're at. And I look at what their average coherence data is. So I have them do it every morning and every evening. And so that creates accountability, which for me, what I'm trying to create is a habit, right? A
Yes.
routine. And so what ends up happening is that if you put
Right.
a little, reminder, breathe at whatever, 2 or 3 times a day, and it doesn't have to be long periods. And if you want, I can send you like a 2 minute, meditation that I give to people that connects you to your heart. And it's interesting because as you start to do this, like you say, I've done it for 3 weeks, and then boom, I fall off the wagon. Your body, as soon as you start to do this, it'll start to ask you for it more because it feels so good for that internal space. And you have to remember, the brain loves repetition, and everyone's unique. It takes all of us different times in order to get into that repetitive space. And what we're doing is we're creating new neural pathways into the brain of, this is how I operate, this is how I operate. It's like learning to play a new instrument. You start with one basic thing, and then the brain's like, I got it, let's move to the next one. And then we add another piece to it. Boom, got it, let's add another third piece to it. And so you're just building and building and building until that little muscle, that neural pathway is so strong that you're always going to be able to come back to it. Does that help?
Oh, that helps tremendously. Most of what you said, I understand and have heard before. But what is interesting is just the one more piece, and it seems like it would be common sense to set a reminder.
Well,
That's
but
real easy information.
it's not brain surgery, right? But here's the thing: is that accountability component is what's actually missing from our daily routine. Is like, okay, I have a routine, but I don't have accountability with it. And how do I acquire that accountability? Well, little reminders hold us accountable when you don't have a community that continuously reminds you to breathe. I've had clients call me the
Yeah,
breathing Nazi.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's
well, I
cool.
want to also throw in that if your reminders, because this happens with ADHD, if your reminders suddenly become background noise and you just dismiss them, I mean, these magic phones, right? Change the noise. You
Yeah.
can change the accompanying sound. You can change a ringtone. You can you can customize music so that you can just keep freshening it up if your reminders get boring. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. That's good information. The other thing I've had some success with is I was unconsciously holding my breath
Mm,
all throughout the day, all throughout the day, and I've had success with that because now every time I do it, I notice it. I
that's great
notice it.
awareness.
Yeah, and I stop doing that.
That is
Um, so yeah, working on that is good, and then doing my
fantastic.
breath work now. And really, that simple reminder that will probably do the trick for me. So thank you.
You're so welcome.
All right, I'll jump down off the
Yeah.
stage.
Well,
Thank you,
okay,
Anthony.
thanks for joining us. We're gonna have Akari on more often too. Like the invite is this is a little series I'd love to see you on as much as you want to come on, Akari.
Thank you.
Because we you can only scratch the surface of the nervous system, in small little bites. So I want to keep this, kind of an easy to digest, 30-minute thing. But do you have some link or something that you wanted to share with people?
I don't have a link that I mean, I think anyone who wants to reach me, I love Instagram because it's so
Yeah.
flexible. It really does help me
That's how I
keep
met
in
you.
touch. That's how we met. Yes. It would be great as it starts to expand and everything. But I whoever wants to reach me on Instagram, it's Akari Breathwork, and it's UHKARE Breathwork. UHKARE Breathwork. And I can send people, whoever requests it, I can send that 2 minute, just a 2 minute heart connection that really makes a huge difference when you're in that space of like, I'm starting to panic, what's happening? Oh, heart connection. Um, One of the beautiful things about the heart is that It has an electromagnetic field that spreads 3 to 5 feet outside of our bodies, and that's how we connect, even in this field. And once you start to connect into the space, you automatically connect with the people around you. So as you start to do this work on strengthening that nervous system, creating a more flexible nervous system, you're giving other people permission to sink into that safety, because your face starts to shift and change, right? When you're like, oh, I'm really calm, I'm really peace, I'm connecting to my heart. There's a completely different look and feel that isn't that doesn't need to be spoken. People feel comfortable, people feel safe, and it's contagious. So that's really the focus, is we need to learn how to do little baby things that are going to really make big impacts. And it doesn't have to be very hard.
No. Oh, thank you. It reminds me, just even listening to you, like as I'm breathing in, like it's our own regulate built-in regulation system,
Yeah.
How cool is that? Like when you don't know that, it feels like regulation is something out here, and when you know that, you're like, no, it comes from within in my
It
lungs,
comes
and I
it,
can
it
do it
comes from within, and,
myself.
and we're just conditioned. We're conditioned to look outside for answers, and the answers really all lie within. And like I was saying, so the human design piece really helps get into that space of giving yourself permission to genuinely be yourself, make decisions from places that make sense, that's not from a trauma or a shame lens. And then I start going into regulating the nervous system and creating, a more flexible nervous system by teaching people about their window of tolerance. And I can tell you the exercises that I've been doing and working on for years has really started to spill into my family. And we've had, just this past week, we've had like situations that kind of boom, 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 trigger that nervous system. And we've all managed it so well. I'm really, really proud of how well we've managed this past week. We're doing so well. We're regulating ourselves, which then doesn't cause anyone else to get triggered or out of line. We're kind of all there's a saying out there that the best thing that you can do for a loved one is to be regulated.
That's a bumper sticker. Make it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Yes,
best thing you can do for
I
a loved
love
one
it.
is to be self-regulated.
It's true.
So,
Yeah, and for yourself. Oh, well, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to leave it there, but we'll come back. We'll talk more about human design and other things tapping into our nervous system.
yeah, absolutely, because it all works together. It's pretty incredible how it's all correlated, and yeah, it's just breaking the pieces apart so that it makes more sense for ourselves and for everyone else, because it really is life transforming.
Yes, thank you. Yes, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, go have a wonderful day. Thank you for coming. And this will be posted in just a little bit. And I will see you next time. We're having another show on Wednesday. Come back then.
Thanks, Jenny.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.